everyone, and welcome back to It Starts With You, Human Rights and Equity, brought to you by the Human Rights and Equity Office. We're thrilled today to have a wonderful guest, Joshua Brown, who is the principal at Montcalm Secondary School. And we really wanted him to come in today to talk about kind of what equity and human rights actually looks like on the ground in the schools. So when we're at the school board at the ed office, we get little snippets of things, so it's really exciting, to come to the school and also to talk to you about that. So for a lot of people who might not be familiar with who Josh is, you're in for a treat. So a lot of people might not know who you are. They should know who you are. Well, so what could you tell? Who is Joshua Brown?
Who is Joshua Brown? Well, I would say that has to go back to my roots. Joshua Brown is from Belzoni, Mississippi, right? If you ever saw the movie The Help, they talk about Belzoni, Mississippi, and with one of the maids there. Small town boy, but happy to be a part of the amazing and brilliant environment here in London, Ontario, Canada. And so just humble roots, but very passionate about working with students in an urban setting. So that's who I am.
Okay, so you say an urban setting. So when we're talking about you're literally coming from another country.
Yes.
Culture is different. I mean, we can say, yes, we've got black people here, black people there, but the culture is different. Yeah. And what was that like coming to Canada? I'm going to be specific, London, Ontario, and sort of roughly when did you come?
Well, my background, I came here, I immigrated to London, Ontario, Canada in 2020. But my background goes as far as understanding London, Ontario. In 2005, I had the opportunity to meet a lovely woman from Canada, from London, Ontario, a Saunders graduate. And we both had an opportunity to meet at Mississippi Valley State University, which is a historically black college. With that, my lived experiences are, I would say, is quite different. In terms of minority, Caucasian individuals would have been the minority at my university. Right. So one of the privileges that I had is to be able to go to what I thought is a very prestigious institution and have a benefit of a lot of the individuals that I saw walking around that university looked like me and had some of the same lived experiences. So from a cultural standpoint, I have a different understanding of how it feels to be in a marginalized group differently than what I am here in Canada, which is a lot more marginalized here in London, Ontario. And so it's a bit of a culture shock to sit in a room sometimes, but it gives you an opportunity to be able to share those lived experiences and also give other individuals an opportunity to understand a different perspective, because as we recognize perspective, it also allows us to recognize perspectives of different cultures, different backgrounds, and a lot of those different lived experiences. So I think it's a benefit to have individuals like myself and other individuals from different cultures have an opportunity to unpack some of their lived experiences and to engage with the students, because if you look at our schools are very much representative of different cultures and different backgrounds, religions, and ethnic groups. And I think our administrators and our teachers and our staff and our leadership needs to be reflective of that.
Yeah. I really love that you brought that up, because that was a point I was going to hit a little later. But the fact that your experience was much different than mine. So I, grew up in London, went to school here, went to University of Western. And I said to people all through that time, I never had an instructor or teacher, professor who looked like me. No. And I think it was in my master's that I had one man who was originally from China for one term. That was it. So the entire time. So I think what a gift it is for students, I think, to see. And how do you think that is received as far as with students, not even just black students, seeing a black leader? Like, how do you think that's received by students, staff, and even parents?
Well, I would say a lot of the experiences that I've had with staff have been extremely positive, because it's a benefit to have different perspectives bringing to the table. From students as well, when I introduce myself, I'm a principal of Montcalm, like, oh, okay, that's pretty cool. And with parents, parents do have more of a different realization when I do introduce myself. First off, say I'm an educator, and then what do you do? Well, I work at Montcalm. What do you do at Montcalm? Well, I'm the principal of Montcalm. Like, oh, Oh, okay. It gives an opportunity for people to really unpack that there are individuals from different shared beliefs and different shared backgrounds that can be of leadership. But I think one of the most important things is that regardless of what background you are, is that you make a connection with the school community. You make a connection with the teachers and the students and the parents. And regardless of your background, I think it is of benefit to ensure that you're leading by example. I will say, one of the conversations that I had with one staff member at Montcalm is like, hey, do you know you're the first Black principal of Montcalm? And then the realization didn't set in yet with that, and it does carry with it a bit of a weight. And the weight is, make sure that you're doing things the right way. Ensure that you're leading by example and that you're showing students from my marginalized background and non-marginalized background that anyone could pursue leadership in our board. And I think our board has taken a great step of hiring and introducing those experiences for our students and staff.
No, I absolutely love that. And I always said representation is important. And a lot of times people would think it's only the Black students or the Black staff. But I would say, no, for someone who is of another identity, especially if they're white, to see someone not like them in a leadership role kind of shifts that whole prism for them, that they can start to be more open to things. And I just love how the person, he really starts, I'm an educator, I work in school. It's like, and then it ends with, I'm the principal.
Yeah.
And I think it's just, you also get to see that you're kind of bringing them through that process of here's where we will land.
Yes.
So with Montcalm, and I've had the pleasure of going there a few times, that it's a diverse school.
Yes, it is.
And so when we talk about the school board, about, equity, affirming all identities, we have different equity initiatives, the plan, the dismantling all forms of isms plans that are out there. What does that actually look like in your school?
I think it starts with putting those words into action. So when you look at the experiences that I have, the experiences that other teachers and staff have, who do we have at the school level that can help implement some of those strategies? And I'm very fortunate of working and being the proud principal of Montcalm, Go Cougars, is that I have a great gift of staff who want to engage in this work. And that work sometimes can be very tough because you're engaging in conversations that may be a little bit uncomfortable, but it doesn't mean that those conversations are unsafe. And with my staff, I just last week, Mr. Doherty, Mr. Nikolai, and Miss Collins and some of the other teachers and staff were working towards our multicultural festival. And so we brought students together to really look at what do you want to explore in terms of your culture. And we're going to have a great celebration of that. With that, also our Black History Month assembly that we had students come together, but not just students from Black marginalized culture, but students from all around. So we had other students from our ISA, our MSA, our BSA, our CSA that were part of our music program. Our dance team was involved in that celebration, and they put on an extraordinary event. But the feedback that we received from staff was that this was so positive that it really allowed us to really unpack a lot of the voices that are sometimes unheard in our building, because for a lot of our students, they're either involved in academics, they're involved in their sports. We have a great tech program at Montcalm. Not a part of Montcalm, but it has an aviation program in terms of the aviation school. So our students have the experience and the gift of being in a very diverse school, but with teachers and staff that care for them. When we look at our essential conditions for learning, that number one key piece is relationships. And I think our staff members and staff members, and as well as our administration and our support staff, have done a great job of building those connections, but it's allowing students to have the opportunity and the latitude for their voice. And what do you want to see happen at the school level? As well as our other celebrations right now, we have different practices for Ramadan. We have spaces, safe spaces for students who are fasting. We have opportunities on Friday for congregational prayer that's occurring. So all of those voices need to be heard, but giving the latitude and the students the ability to do that is very important.
And what I love is just the inclusivity of it. Because yes, it's Black History Month. And I said to someone last week, okay, it's Black History Month, but it's Canadian history.
Yes, it is.
And to have others, and when you named off all the different student groups that participated in that's what it's about.
Yeah, because you can to me, only recognize perspectives if you're participating in those perspectives and you're engaging in that work. And to limit it to just Black students, okay, that voice needs to be heard. But also, how do we engage more students is having them be participants in those different activities.
Right. So it's sharing the space.
Yes, it is.
And then also demonstrating for other groups, other cultures, other backgrounds, that there is space for you too, and it can look like this, which I think is huge.
And having great educators that want to help be involved in that process, because it takes leadership. Kids love to do things. Sometimes those are big ideas and you have to bring it back down to a healthy medium. But having those educators that I mentioned before, and all of our educators at Montcalm really engage in those topics to help refine on, okay, here's what you want to do. Here's how we can actually make it happen at the school level. And then also allocating. Sometimes the principals have to deal with the money, is to ensure that we allocate appropriate resources towards those initiatives.
Absolutely. Yeah. So what are some of the challenges that you see?
I think, well, one of the big challenges that I have is how do we create those spaces for voices, especially from our parent groups. Students, you have them. You have the gift of having them in school every day. You can call an assembly like that, right? But with parents, sometimes it's very tough because parents, number one, they want what's best for their kids, and number two, they have to work, right? I know I have to work for my family. And sometimes it's those times, even before school or after school, it can be very problematic. So creating the opportunities for parents to really engage in us with this difficult work, I think, is very important. And we may have family nights. We may have parent meet the teacher nights, setting up booths, inviting families during the day. So working on ways that we can try to be creative to bring more of our families in, and then also engage our community. Our community is amazing in terms of here in London. They want to engage in a lot of the work, but how do we get the word out? And so working with our communications team, I know we have different initiatives that we run from a racial perspective and multi-ethnic group perspective of getting individuals in, but engaging with parents, that is one that I feel that we need to just do a little bit of extra work on.
And that really goes outside of the 7:30 to 4:30.
Yeah.
And that's the thing when we talk about equity, it's not a 9 to 5.
Nope.
It's not a 9 to 5. So somehow you have gotten staff, I don't know if you inherited them or you did some magic to sort of shift people to believe in this.
I just think I'm blessed with the staff I have.
Okay.
Yeah. So and again, the staff I have are amazing. And again, it is tough work, but if they're willing to do it, I'm willing to work with them to get it done. Yeah.
Is there a moment like when you kind of went, okay, this is why it matters. This is what we do. Like in the last while, like something kind of hits and you think, okay, yeah.
I've had lots of those moments, more so in the secondary panel, because for a lot of our students, they're looking at what's next and what comes after high school. And so whether it's college or university or the workforce, in some cases military. I had a conversation with a student just the other day talking through, here's what I'm thinking about doing. I am looking at going into hockey. Here is some options that I have. Do I go to Montreal and work with this semi-pro team, or do I go to a university that's scouting me? My bias.
What's your bias?
My bias is education, because here's the thing. Once you earn that piece of paper, it can't be taken away, and you have it forever. Whereas the opportunity could come later, and that is something that could fall by the wayside. You get injured and things of that nature. So being an football player, Americanized football.
Okay, thank you.
Have to make that distinction.
Yes, you do.
The student came and had that conversation with me because they saw the rings and the football different segments that I have in my office that highlight sports and teamwork. Is that they wanted to unpack what are some of the things that you've done. And I said, my experience would be quite different than your experience, and I'm not going to tell you what to do. But what I can say, make the decision, and then I can give you always some feedbacks, and we look at pros and cons of the different things. I think having the opportunity to have those conversations with students and youth at this level really helps them along the way. And then also involving parents. student doesn't know that, call mom and dad. Hey, here's what was unpacked. I just want to make sure that you're aware that we're having these conversations. So the student may see this and be like, you talk to my mom and dad? Like, I thought it was just me and you. So those opportunities, I think, are very important to be able to have as school administrators, because sometimes you're dealing with the discipline, sometimes you're dealing with budgeting and timetabling, but it is really about the connections you make with the students, the connections you make with the staff, because our ultimate goal is to help produce, productive members of our Canadian society and global members of our world.
Absolutely. And for me, it's always been about relationships. Yeah. I've always told people I've got to where I am based on relationships and the joy and everything that comes with that. And if there's a struggle, but I think it speaks volumes that this student came to you.
Yeah.
That you're doing an awesome job there, Joshua. Like, seriously, that I know you haven't been there a long time. Right? But the fact that student valued your opinion, your input, and came to you, and I love the balance with the home part. Yes. I really do respect that as a parent as well, who always wants to work with the school and the educators. I think that's huge. That everyone's kind of, how do we support this person? We're on the same team. Yeah. So, Montcalm, what do you think people should know about Montcalm that they might not know? Because there's a lot of amazing things. You kind of touched on the aviation, you kind of touched on the tech and things like that. But sort of what would you share if you had like 2 minutes to say, this is what the school is?
Well, I can say this without, boastfulness. Montcalm is the best school in Thames Valley. Okay, Montcalm is the best school in the city, and I would say Montcalm is the best school in Ontario and Greater Canada. So that is and if you want the best education, come to Montcalm. So is that a little bit of advertising there?
That's awesome.
But what I will say, I instead of saying that, I would say a story. We had the great opportunity of having a grade 8 night in November. And during that grade 8 night, we invite students from our feeder schools. Some are not a part of our feeder schools, and students had an opportunity to go and meet with some of our educators to engage in different activities. They had activities available in science and music. They got to see a part of what makes Montcalm's culture relevant and relatable to those individual students. And I was sitting in hospitality class, and I was talking to a parent and their daughter. And at that point, she said to me and her dad, I think I know where my home is. And my home is here at Montcalm. And I asked, why? Well, every person that introduced themselves to me, I felt like I could have a personal connection with that individual. And that's a testament to the work that those teachers and staff put together at Montcalm. Of course, I asked, well, what's my competition? I'm not going to say who that competition is, but I was very proud to be able to say that this student made us as their home, okay? Yeah. Not their school of choice, but their home, because typically they're there for 4 years, sometimes 5. And so it is a home for them, and it's their home away from home. And so when students can make a critical connections to their school and see themselves as a part of that school community even before entering that building in September, I think is extremely positive. But talking about the school goes far beyond that, because our academic programs, we have seen increases in our EQAO scores. And scores are just not the top, right. But academically, our students are performing. When you look at athletics, our team are going to OSFA and WASFA every single year. When you look at the opportunities that we have in terms of our students having engaged in specialist high skills majors, our students are engaged in tons of programs. Our students are getting training, and that is experiential learning for the workforce today. I remember going back in high school myself, and I went into my guidance counselor office, and they showed a picture of a plumber and a picture of a lawyer. And they said, work smarter, not harder. Well, that plumber, I know, because I had to have that person come in and help with my frozen pipes. They're making over $100 an hour.
Yes, they are.
I don't make that. Okay, so I think we need to shift the narrative to ensure that our students are getting an opportunity of academic-based jobs, yes, and high-performing careers, but also with those technological-based jobs that allow you to be your own boss, to set your own hours, and to say, hey, during winter break, I'm going to have a premium of an additional 50% if I do a home call. We have all of those programs available at Montcalm, whether it's academics or tech. And if you're interested in learning about aviation and avionics, we have an aviation school for Thames Valley. So these are tons of programs that the board is investing in schools like Montcalm's. And we have, I think, the best educators to be able to be involved in that work with those curriculum programming.
I'm speechless. That was amazing. Just because we touched on the whole diversity and all the things that are happening there. And then on top of that, the academics and kids are thriving there and the space to be. And I love that student, it's home, because it's true. It's 4 to 5 years that you are going to spend, and formative years and relationships that could last like your entire life. But I think the huge thing that's really standing out for me, that's making this machine run and everything work, is the staff that you've talked about, and always giving props to the staff. And that's a huge thing. And I think them being on board and them really believing in this and setting the tone and creating that culture where kids can feel like, I belong here. And I can be me here, which is a huge thing for setting them up to be young adults.
Yes.
And that's kind of the foundation that we want for them. So is there anything that you would like to share that you haven't shared?
Well, thank you so much for having me on. I do appreciate it. And one thing I would like to share is that for Thames Valley, as a whole, I think we're doing great things for students. But there are individual schools within our board that is really working towards school high performance and academic achievement, sports, creating safe spaces for students and different youth. But ultimately, I think Thames Valley is doing the right thing. We're moving in the right direction. And for schools like Montcalm, here's my advertisement. Please apply. And we look forward to having you. And I just think any educator, I would love for my kid, if they're making that choice, to be able to choose a school like Montcalm, because all of our schools are great within the Valley. And I think we need to continue to push that one Valley vision of we're the best schools available for students.
Thank you. I think we were really excited to have you on, because there's all of these, policies, initiatives, and things, and saying that we're affirming identities. And sometimes, in the Human Rights Office, you hear when things kind of go sideways. Yes. But the fact that this is what can happen, and they're educators just like other educators. They believe in what they're doing. They believe in the students, I think, which is huge. But I think that's just a great example for other schools to look at, and other schools to think, okay, this is possible. Yeah. So I think that we are blessed in having you here, that you found your wife. Thank you. Bringing him to Canada, because it's a different perspective, a different lens that comes, that I think is needed, especially when we basically are the world within Thames Valley. So I want to thank you so much for coming and sharing that with us today. Also, I think the big thing we say, it starts with you. It starts with you. Like, you believe in the school, and you show up, and you lead by example, and you do that. And I think that's important for everyone, that when we talk about different policies and things, and you're thinking, how do I figure into this? You really need to think about, it starts with you. So what can I shift? What do I need to learn? How do I see the humanity in everyone, really? So thank you so much for joining us today. Again, it starts with you. Brought to you by the Human Rights and Equity Office. If you have any suggestions of anyone you'd like to have come on, you want to come on, any things you'd like us to tackle, just send us an email at the hreo@tvdsb.ca. Thank you.